live? Don't
Yes, live.
It's live.
Yeah, it's waiting.
Yeah, it's waiting.
Video is starting.
What page you on?
All right, shalom. All right, shalom, everybody. As we said, we are going to. You see, all right. So as we said, we are going to sit here and do this live study session. All right, we're going to do this live study session. Once again, this is a study session, so we're just putting together. We're not really doing a lesson. So we are going to still, we're going to deal with what we were dealing with on, what we do that, Tuesday? On Tuesday, we were originally going to do it Monday, but we just decided we're going to do it today. And we're going to go over the Abomination of Desolation, Great Tribulation, things of that nature. So, what we are going to do is a recap, a little small recap of what we went over. But before we do that, we are going to define what this Abomination of Desolation is before we do anything. And since a lot of brothers like going to the Greek for some strange reason, they can't use the actual book, but we're going to go to the Greek and get a definition, a definitive definition on this Abomination of Desolation. So, you mind reading, brother?
Not at all.
So, first we're going to define with the Greek word abomination, what that is. Go ahead.
Transliteration of abomination. Beldugmas. Bedelugma.
Turn around.
Oh, turn around. Sure.
So, the definition, what does it say?
A foul thing, a detestable thing.
All right, so off back, you got a foul thing and a detestable thing. If you fit these categories, you fit as the Abomination of Desolation. But let's get more specific. Go ahead.
Of idols and things pertaining to idolatry.
Now that's the key. Of idols or things pertaining to idolatry. So when we get to cancel that out, certain things, brothers and sisters, then you can't say this is the Abomination of Desolation, this is the Abomination of Desolation. Or what you can say is that they all abominable things, and they are detestable things, right? But only certain ones fit the category of idolatry. And that is what we're pointing to when it comes to the Pope in the future. He will be worshipped as a god, brothers and sisters. So that is what we're looking at, right?
Not like God, but as a God.
As a god, and so where we stopped at last time, we stopped at 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, showing that there was going to be a falling away. Yeah, the gospel. Paul said the gospel was preached to all creatures under the heaven, but then he also said it was going to be a falling away that happened, and then man of sin shall be revealed when close to when Christ is returning, brothers and sisters, and he will be worshipped and magnified as God. So this is pertaining to idolatry. So we're going to do some recapping on this famine, because we said this is one of the signs that Christ was going to return, right? My bad. Famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in divers or different places.
And also, it would be a global famine we need to recognize, not just a local famine.
Right. Not no regional famine used to starve people out for war tactics. We're talking about something that could be man-made, a man-induced famine, man-made induced famine, or a God-created famine, but it's all God-created at the end of the day, right? And so, we're going to do a recap on that. You can go ahead with that, bro.
Okay.
Read!
Oh, what we at?
We're reading the book of Josephus right now, and then we're going to get to the scriptures. Go ahead. So while he's looking for that, what we want to establish is that there were famines recorded, and what we want to also establish is that you need a primary source. Once again, a primary source is an eyewitness account of somebody that was there at that time that saw this thing, and that was Josephus. Regardless of what anybody feels about him, he was there. He saw what was going on. Yes, I know he ended up being a traitor, but that's not the point. It's crazy that Christ actually prophesied him as well. But what we're going to show is that the famine was regional and it did not hit globally. Now, this is what we want to see. We want to see a global famine, a global pestilence, where all this other
fit the title. Titus thought fit to encompass the city round about with the wall, after which the famine consumed the people by whole houses and families together. So this is what we're about to do.
Go ahead.
So all hope of escaping was now cut off from the Jews, together with their liberty of going out of the city. Then did the famine widen its progress and devour the people by whose houses and families the upper rooms were full of women and children that were dying by and the lanes of the city were full of the dead bodies of the aged. The children also and the young men wander about the marketplace like shadows, all swelled with the famine and fell down dead wheresoever the misery seized them. Next page. Okay. Now we're going to go to the fourth part of the chapter. However, when Titus, in going his rounds along those valleys, saw them full of dead bodies in the thick putrefacients running about them, he gave a groan and spreading out his hands to heaven, called God the witness that this was not his doing. And so was the case of the city itself. But the Romans were very joyful, since none of the seditious could not have sallies out of the city, because were themselves disconsolate, and the famine already touched them also. The Romans beside had great plenty of corn and other necessaries out of Syria and out of the neighboring provinces. Now we're gonna skip down. So Caesar went his rounds through the legions and hastened on the works, and showed the robbers that were not in his hands, but these men, and these only incapable of repenting of the wickedness they have been guilty of, and separating their souls from their bodies. They used them both as if they belonged to other folks and not to themselves. For no gentle affection could touch their souls, nor could any pain affect their bodies, since they could still tear the dead bodies of the people as dogs and fill the prisons with those that were sick. So we see right there that this was not a global famine. These were regional famines that happened. And this one induced famine was caused by a man-induced famine, which was used as starvation tactics that we see. But we see that the provinces around weren't affected, and the Romans weren't affected.
Right, so we see that. Notice you don't hear nothing about earthquakes. You don't hear nothing about a pestilence, and you got a regional famine. That's not
in diverse places.
Right, that's not in diverse places. All three of them in diverse places. But now, what we're going through now, you have earthquakes in diverse places. You just had a global famine, a global pestilence that we just got over. And now we're going through a global famine, right? So that is two different scenarios. Once again, we are the primary source for our time. Josephus was the primary source for his time. He's not talking about the same thing we're seeing in our time, brothers and sisters. And so that is what we want to get the point across. Now, we're going to keep with this abomination of desolation, but we're not going to focus on Matthew 24 today. We're going to still see that there's an abomination of desolation in the future, which is the Pope. So, what I want, let's see. No, we going to read this real quick, and then we're going to go there. You mind doing the honors, brother? So read everything that's highlighted. So this is the Nelson Bible Dictionary on the abomination of desolation. So we're going to be completely fair and let everything out of the bag. We ain't going to hold nothing back, so y'all can decide for yourselves. Because either way it goes, either what we're saying is not in this book or it is in the book. Period. All right, go ahead.
Abomination of desolation. A despisable misuse of the temple. Abomination of desolation.
That's right.
A despisable misuse of the temple of the Lord during a time of great trouble, an event foretold by the prophet Daniel. The phrase is found in Matthew 24, verse 15, and Mark 13, verse 14, as a quotation from Daniel 11:31 and 12 and 11. In Daniel, the words mean the abomination that makes desolate. In other words, Daniel prophesied that the temple would be used for an abominable purpose at some time in the future. As a result, God's faithful people would no longer worship there. So great would be their moral revulsion, contempt, and abhorrence at the sacrilege, and the temple will become desolate.
All right, so watch this. Remember, we said from the Greek word in Matthew 24 and 15. Excuse me. It says that in the meaning, it is a foul thing, a detestable thing, but more specifically of idols and things pertaining to idolatry. Right? So we want to tackle that. Go ahead. Keep going.
As a result, God's faithful people will no longer worship. Okay. All right. According to the verses in the Gospels, a similar misuse of the temple would take place in the future. This would show that a time of great trouble was coming on Judea. People should take warning and flee to the mountains. Matthew 24, verse 16, Mark 13 and 14.
Well, I guess this was metaphorically fleeing to the mountains, right? We're going to metaphorically flee into the mountains away from danger, right?
No,
So that's an argument, right? That's the argument, and that doesn't fit. But go ahead. But go ahead.
Some believe Daniel's prophecy was initially fulfilled about 165 BC when Antiochus IV Epiphanes, Greek ruler of Syria, polluted the Jewish temple in Jerusalem by sacrificing a pig on the holy altar.
All right, so we have that. So that is, we're going to read that, brothers and sisters. That is actually not a person. That is a thing. So you see how a thing, it could be a foul thing or a detestable thing of idols and things pertaining to idolatry. Now it's funny, with that, at least he put something in that was used for idol worship, right? That's not the same as far as the Roman legion armies and Titus and things of that nature, right?
So abomination would simply be a title.
Exactly. It's a title, brothers and sisters. It is a title based on the actions of that particular thing or whatever it's used for.
Whatever like that.
Right, exactly. Or somebody coming as a man of sin, something being used, or a man being used as far as idol worship, right? Go ahead.
And as we normally say in Walls of Jericho, he can be a abomination of desolation, but he's not the abomination of desolation.
Yeah.
Because
That's
this
the key.
person who's the abomination of desolation has to fit this specific criteria.
Right. Or we can even say, hey, this is the abomination. Just because it's saying the abomination of desolation don't mean it's just one thing.
Exactly.
And that's what we got to establish. Otherwise, when we go through these scriptures, something is not going to be right. If we're saying it's just one thing, brothers and sisters, right? You finished with that? Go ahead.
This sacrificing of an unclean pig was the worst kind of abomination that could have taken place. A more complete fulfillment, however, occurred when the Romans sacked the Jewish temple about 70 AD.
Oh, so we got that, right? Once again, we not leaving nothing out, right? Antiochus, we got one as an example. Then we got the Roman legion armies as an example, right? Keep going.
But others insist that the final abomination of desolation refers to the idolatrous image or the man of sin who will take over God's place in the temple and make people bow down and worship him.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that fits the abomination of desolation,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
So let's just say we got three on the scene, right? What we want to make sure is the one that's in the future, brothers and sisters, is actually going to come to pass. Because the other ones don't matter. Titus dead, the Roman legion army's dead, and Antiochus is dead. We don't have to worry about them.
We gotta see what we watching for.
Right. We gotta watch out for something. Otherwise, I can even put this out there, right? Ain't gonna be no temple, ain't gonna be no animal sacrifice. We ain't got to worry about certain things, brothers. In the dictionary, right? You finish with that? Go ahead.
According to this interpretation, this will be the final act of sacrilege that marks the beginning of the end time.
All right, so we want to make sure that at the end time that there's something about the abomination of desolation coming at the end. I want y'all to pay attention to that. At the end, right? So we don't get confused. You had something you want to add?
Also, since we talking about Abomination of Desolation, we need to look at Titus, since scholars, also there are some scholars that share the same premise that other people in the truth do, that he's the Abomination of Desolation. This was already fulfilled, but we need to look at Titus, and we need to try Titus real quick, because Titus says some things that kind of don't align with that ideology.
Right, go ahead.
So right here, this is in the book of Josephus. This is in from the great extremity of which the Jews were reduced to, the taking of Jerusalem by Titus, chapter 1.
Go ahead.
And this is a dissertation that Titus gave to his soldiers before this happened.
Go ahead.
For it is unbecoming you, who are Romans and my soldiers, who have in peace been taught how to make wars, and who have also been used to conquer in those wars, to be inferior to Jews, either in action of the hand or in courage of the soul. Right. And this especially when you are at conclusion of your victory, assisted by God himself.
Oh, he's saying he's been assisted by God himself. That don't sound like the abomination that we are talking about in the future, brothers and sisters, right? Go ahead.
But it gets worse. For as to our misfortunes, they have been owing to the madness of the Jews, while their suffering owing to your valor and to the assistance God have afforded you. For as to the seditions they have been in, and the famine they are under, and the siege they now endure, and the fall of their walls without our engines, and what can they all be but demonstrations of God's anger against them, and of his assistance afforded us? So you mean to tell me that the Abomination of Desolation was assisted by God?
Oh, so instead of him going against God, he's saying that he's assisted by God. He didn't even want to take the credit, because he said there is no merit in conquering people. I'm paraphrasing. There is no merit in conquering people that were forsaken by their own God. I don't think the one we're talking about, he's being worshipped as God. Remember, we have a foul thing, a detestable thing of idols and things pertaining to idolatry. The Roman legion armies and Titus, they were not worshipped as God, y'all.
Right.
Now, like I said, at least with Antiochus, he put the abomination in the temple for it to be used for worshiping another god. There is no idolatry with Titus in the Roman legion army whatsoever, right?
It also sounds like that brother has more of a repentful state of mind, more so than blaspheming the Lord. It sounds like he is acknowledging that the Lord is using him and as a vessel, basically, to punish the Israelites or the Jews.
Right. So but when we get to this person that's being worshipped as God at the end, he ain't thinking about none of that. Exactly. Right. So we're actually going to see, brothers and sisters, that Antiochus repented at the end. Titus is saying what he's doing. The false prophet ain't worried about that. He gonna get thrown in the lake of fire when Christ come back.
Right.
Right. So it's no repent. You can actually sit here and say that Antiochus might make it. He might, and we're gonna see what he said when we get to that. Right. So now we didn't covered all these grounds. Let's get into the scriptures now. Right.
We're going to start at Daniel 7, y'all.
Oh, wait. We going to establish something else, then we going to get to the scriptures. Go ahead.
Oh.
Now, can you find an excerpt that just sums it up?
Yeah.
So we're gonna do one more thing real quick. Go ahead.
So right here, this is when Josephus had the conversation with Vespasian, and Vespasian gave Josephus the opportunity to trade on the Jewish nation, and for him, and Josephus prophesied to Vespasian that he was going to come into fruition of being the emperor.
Right.
So right here, it says, when Josephus heard him give those orders, he said that he had somewhat in his mind that he would willingly say to himself alone, when therefore they were all ordered to withdraw, excepting Titus, two of their friends, he said, Thou, O Vespasian, thinkest no more then that thou hast taken Josephus himself captive, but I come to thee as a messenger of great tidings, For I had not been sent by God to thee. I been sent by God to thee. I knew what was the laws of the Jews in this case, how it becomes generals to die. Dost thou send me to Nero? For why? Are Nero's successors till they come to thee still alive? Thou, O Vespasian, art Caesar and emperor thou, and this thy son? Bind me now still faster, and keep me for thyself. For thou, O Caesar, art not only Lord over me, but over the land and the sea and all mankind, and certainly I deserve to be kept in closer custody than I am now in order to be punished, if I ravishly affirm anything of God. When he had said this, Vespasian at present did not believe him, but supposed that Josephus said this as a cunning trick, to order to his own preservation. But in little time he was convinced and believed what he said to be true, God himself erecting his expectations so as to think of obtaining the empire and by other signs foreshowing his advancement.
All right, so you see with that, that Vespasian was told who he was going to be emperor. Y'all don't think Titus was told this and he made a quote like that?
Mm-hmm.
We got to think about that, brothers and sisters. Like that's something we got to think about. Now, let's get into the scriptures. We're going to start this at Daniel 7. Now, we done with Matthew 24. I just want to put that out there. We are done with Matthew 24. We want to see if this is elsewhere besides Matthew 24, right? We want to go so deep into the process of elimination that it don't even matter if we're using Matthew 24 now. Is this person in the future going to be there, right? All right, so Daniel 7 and verse 1. We're going to start Daniel 7 and verse 1.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed.
Mm-hmm.
Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter.
All right, go ahead.
Daniel spake and said, I saw my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove up upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
All right, as we're going to see, this is talking about the four nations that conquered and ruled the world wholeheartedly. Nobody to challenge them, none of these things, and they kept power for at the time that they kept power from. Let's go confirm that. Skip down to verse 17 and go ahead.
Verse 17, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall rise out of the earth.
Now, let's take our time with this, right? It said these great beasts, which are four kings or kingdoms, which shall arise out of the earth. What's going to happen after they come? Go ahead.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
So process of elimination. Any date that you give that this stuff has happened, right after that, the saints got to possess the kingdom.
Yes.
Right.
Forever.
Forever.
Right. So that's what we're looking for after it. If you're saying something happened in the past, and we're gonna go through all that. If you're saying something happened in the past, when it comes to this, after that, the saints have to possess the kingdom, brothers and sisters, right?
Yes.
Skip down to verse 20 and go ahead.
Verse 20, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows.
All right, so what we're going to see as far as the argument is concerned, brothers and sisters, is that this is Justinian. This is Emperor Justinian, who is actually the 4th horn. But somebody is going to make him the little horn, which the Pope is actually the little horn.
Right.
But they saying that Justinian is this guy that whose mouth spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. This is the argument that this is Justinian, right? Go ahead.
Verse 21, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them.
So Justinian made war with the saints and prevailed against them. That is the argument we're putting out right now, right? Go ahead.
Verse 22, until the Ancient of Days came.
Oh, wait a minute. So he did this until the Ancient of Days came. So this is the argument, that this started in 538 AD and ended in 1798 AD. That means after 1798, brothers and sisters, the saints were supposed to possess the kingdom.
Forever and ever.
Forever and ever, right?
Don't look that way now.
Where Jesus at?
Where the Ancient of Days at?
Where the Ancient of Days at,
Right?
right?
What the temple at? What was that put up and tore down and all that, man?
Right, so now that's what we're getting to, right? Until the Ancient of Days came, go ahead.
Until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High.
Who was giving judgment?
And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom.
All right, go ahead, verse 23.
Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth.
So at the end, the fourth beast, which is the Roman head, brothers and sisters, he shall be the fourth kingdom or the last kingdom that we are dealing with that's ruling the whole world, right? Keep going.
I'm going to read verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
All right, so now you have, remember we was talking about this is Justinian, right? So Justinian originally, with one argument, is the fourth horn, brothers and sisters, but somebody has made him the little horn that subdued these 3 kings. Who are these 3 kings? The Heruli, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandals. Those are the 3 kings. Funny that the Pope was there with him. So it's like now you up in the air of which one this could be, right? So let's see if we can find some more clues for this argument. Go ahead.
Verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and a dividing of time.
All right, so was Justinian the first one to change times and laws?
No, not at all.
Constantine, why couldn't it be Constantine then, right?
Would have had a better argument.
He would have had a better argument. The only thing about it is you gotta now answer this time, and the dividing of time, right? So 3.5 years, or it's 1,260 days. So now the argument is, brothers and sisters, that these are prophetic days, like Daniel the 9th chapter.
So you talking about 1,000 some odd years?
Exactly. So he was going to speak great words against the Most High for
1,000 years?
260 years, and then after that, the saints were supposed to possess the kingdom.
Lord, how much?
Right?
So he
Yeah, somebody math
so
off.
he's basically breaking the law that God said that no man's gonna live past 1,000 years.
Exactly. Exactly.
But no,
breaking that.
but no,
breaking it hard.
But
That's
see,
what I'm saying.
we want to make sure that the people that are making this argument, they're not making that argument. That is a good point.
That's a very good point.
Justinian, and we're going to get into the history of that. Justinian died, but his law lasted for 1,260 years. Right? Until Napoleon came, and now when Napoleon came, which is the 8th horn, he's actually the 8th horn, Napoleon came and he changed just the Justinian Code and changed the paradigm until what we have now.
But what about the 9th one, Mussolini?
Right. So now we still got the 9th horn and the 10th horn that we got to deal with, brothers and sisters. So you mean to tell me that the Ancient of Days was going to come before the 10 horns came? No. So this argument is not panning out. Right? It's not panning out, right? So, read verse 26.
26. But judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it until the end. Verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him.
Oh, that happened in 1798. Right? That had to have happened in 1798 because it has to be Justinian with the Justinian Code, right? So, hold on. Let's go read that. First, we're going to read the Justinian Code. So, there's something crazy about the Justinian Code. We don't even have, as far as the 538 is concerned, we don't even have any proof that that actually happened. We have no primary source. We don't have Justinian said, oh, I changed the law, and I'm going to speak great words against the Most High in 538 AD.
I'm sure that would have been documented.
Yeah, that definitely would have been documented. So let's get some basic understanding of what the Justinian Code is. Just read this. So we're going over the Justinian Code real quick. Go ahead.
Code of Justinian, Latin Codex Justinianus, formerly Corpus Juris Civilis, body of civil law, collection of laws and legal interpretations developed under the sponsorship of the Byzantine Empire, Byzantine, my bad, Emperor Justinian from 529 to 565 CE.
So if y'all don't know about this, this code was being developed from 529 to 565. Where does 538? Where's 538 in this? I don't see it in this, right? Because the code was not solidified in 538. They were still making the code up until his death in 565. So that don't make no sense. Keep going.
Strictly speaking, the works did not constitute a new legal code.
Oh, so it wasn't nothing new, right? Keep going.
Rather, Justinian's committees of jurists provided basically two reference works containing collections of past laws and abstracts of the opinions of the great Roman jurists. Also included were an elementary outline of the law and the collection of Justinian's own new laws. The Justinian Code consists of 4 books. 1, Codex Constitutium. 2, Digesta or Pandecta. 3, Institutions. And 4, Novale Constitutionis Post Condicum.
All right, this is Latin.
Oh,
So
that's
Latin. But anyway, the point is he had different parts of this law being created, but they didn't start at 538, brothers and sisters. That's what we're trying to get into, right? So now let's be fair. Let's get the information about this so we can put it out there and kind of do this process of elimination. We feel like reading this. All right, so now this doctrine actually is a Seventh-day Adventist doctrine, brothers and sisters, right? So this is not anything that Israelite elders outside of getting it from the Seventh-day Adventists came up on their own. This is something the Seventh-day Adventists have been preaching for a minute, and it's all type of interpretations on the 1,260 years. So which one is it, right? Regardless, you don't see the Ancient of Days coming down here at 1798, right? And so that's what we're going to do. Go ahead and read that one. You can start it. Start it. Yeah.
Abstract. The year 538 AD became the turning point in the history of the Roman Empire since so many aspects on political, administrative, and economical levels were already switched off, that when Justinian declared himself to be a theologian from this year and no longer a soldier, he crossed the barrier of his mandate between what is purely civil obligation and what is religious obligation. Similarly to Constantine before, and entered in competition with the papal function, and this role is evidence of the Justinian's ongoing Caesaro-papism. The quest for unification of the empire by unification of the church, the fever for church building projects with his wife Theodora, the persecution of enemies of the church and heretics, his disdain with the Sabbath, although his second name was Sabbathani.
And I want to point out with Justinian that he actually thought he was doing the right thing. He wasn't going out there blaspheming the word of God consciously, right? He was doing this all in ignorance. So we got the person that's going to be in the future, brothers and sisters. All the men before that, they either repented, they did it out of ignorance, thinking they was doing the right thing, or they didn't want to take any merit for what they did. That don't sound like the person we looking for, right? Keep going.
His support for suppressing any eschatological fever in line with the church fathers and Osemenias, and yet trying to build the kingdom of God on earth. All this indicate the problem 538 was for the Roman Empire and the Catholic Church. Archaeological and historical original sources of Justinian and contemporaries of popes, biographer of Justinian and the commentator of Revelation, are very revealing of these times.
Y'all notice it didn't say nothing about Justinian's from himself. We don't have no primary source from Justinian himself saying this. We got all secondary sources, of which means people could have made this up. Which means that people could have forced this prophecy to happen. And then what we're still looking for is, after these 1,260 years, the Ancient of Days should have came down and brought judgment on the earth, right?
And the Messiah comes to come and finish his week.
Even the Messiah, so the Messiah is supposed to come and finish the week
For his ministry.
of his ministry, right? Keep going.
And a shift or a transition of what belonged to the Roman Empire handed over since 538 AD to the church and the papal function. The Code of Justinian was a persecuting instrument. Justinian upheld the supremacy of the papacy.
Oh, notice that the papal function was in this, but so the Pope is still, for some strange reason, the papacy is still there, brothers and sisters, right? So now, when we're going through the 10 horns, now that Justinian has become the little horn, who is the fourth horn now? So you got to start replacing. You can't just say this is this. You got to actually replace something when you get rid of something. And then it's got to be solidified, right? You have to keep explaining stuff, right? Keep going.
He permitted through the Council of Orleans actions to be done on Sunday that Constantine prohibited, like travel and preparation of food and cleaning the house. And Novale, Justinian instituted a 7-day Sabbath persecution. He changed the times and laws and Hop as his Novale, and coins of 538 AD indicate.
All right, so he did that then, but he was all type of emperors that was changing within the paradigm of the Lord's word, brothers and sisters. But Constantine, who was actually considered the first pontiff, and that's where the popes got their title based on Constantine, he completely changed God's law. Completely changed it. Sunday, Christmas, Easter, all of these things came with that. Justinian trying to uphold what's in the Bible. That don't seem like he was trying to change times and laws to that degree, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Private gatherers were persecuted. He had church manual laws. Justinian studied systematic theology on the nature of Christ and wrote homiletical rules for preachers. He gave text-critical advice to Jews and condemned their doctrinal deviations. This theological hobby of the rule of the once mighty Roman Empire was to be taken over by a more theological competent power that would eventually lead to papal Caesarism until the unsettling of this new aggrandizing paradigm in 1798 by Napoleon.
Right, or in other words, Napoleon came and he changed the culture of what Justinian had put out there. You can stop right there. I wanted to see that. So now we're seeing this. We're going to bring out the information, but something still don't add up. Where's the Ancient of Days at? That's what we want to specifically focus on. Where is the Ancient of Days after the 1,260 years? Now, that's this 1,260 years. What about the ones that we're going to go to when we get to Revelation 12? That means that not only did the Justinian Code have to go that long, that means the saints fled into the wilderness for 1,260 years.
We can't find that anywhere.
And we can't find that nowhere.
Because it never happened.
So it never happened. So now we still got to deal with Revelations 12 when we finally get there, right? So that's good, my brother. Now let's go to Daniel, the 8th chapter. So we want to do a process of elimination. Daniel 8, and we're going to start at verse 3.
Daniel 8 and verse 3. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last.
And this is talking about the Medo-Persian Empire, with the Medes coming up high, but the Persians coming up higher than the other, which was the Medes, right? Keep going.
I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great.
All right, keep going.
And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Now we're talking about the Greek Empire with Alexander the Great being that notable horn, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
Keep going.
Therefore the heat goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
So Alexander the Great conquered the known world. He did it in 12 years, which is crazy to me. Conquered the notable world in 12 years. And then when he died and got sick, his 4 generals came up, which was the 4 winds of heaven, and then they started to rule, but not with the power of Alexander the Great. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassandra. Right? Keep going.
And out of the one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land.
All right, this is where it gets tricky now, right? Because a lot of people saying they see out of one of them came forth a little horn. Now, this is either the Pope or Antiochus Epiphanes, right? A lot of people say that out of one of them, which is the Greeks, right? And some saying out of one of them, that would be the Seleucids, as far as that is concerned, right? So the Seleucids would be the family that Antiochus would come out of, right? Or this is talking about the latter time, which is the Roman period, talking about the Pope. So we're going to do a process of elimination, right? Keep going.
Daniel 8 verse 10, and it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yeah, he magnified himself, even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
All right, so we're going to go into the history showing that Antiochus stopped sacrifice. He did do that. We're not going to take that away. But then we got something else here. So that's what I say. You got to read this whole thing in order to really do a process of elimination, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Verse 12. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot?
Oh, y'all notice something here? It says transgression of desolation. Wouldn't that be the same as abomination of desolation? Yeah. You see how this stuff, it's just showing you that this person or this thing or whatever is abominable and is a detestable thing. But what we want to focus on is of idols and things pertaining to idolatry. Oh. All right. So now let's get into, now this is a kicker right here, verse 14.
14. He said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
So you got to prove from the time that Antiochus set up this abomination in the temple that this lasted for 2,300 days. You're not going to find that. Right? And then they try to say from John Hyrcanus, to Antiochus doing this to John Hyrcanus is 2,300 days. 2,300 days is 6 years and 3 months.
And the crazy thing is John Hyrcanus and them fell off too.
So what? So the sanctuary was cleansed then, but they still fell off. So once again, we're doing a process of elimination, right? I'm going to go with this being the Pope. 2,300 days at the end, right? From when the daily sacrifice starts until the coming of Christ when he cleanses the sanctuary will be 2,300 days. That's right. So we got to that. Now we're just going to be following this. If you think this stuff makes sense, hey, by all means. But we're showing the holes if you're going to make these arguments, brothers and sisters, right? Now, let's go to Daniel, the 11th chapter. We're done with that. Daniel 11. Matter of fact, what's that? Oh yeah, go to 20. Go ahead.
Yeah.
My bad.
We still at Daniel 8, verse 20. Daniel 8, verse 20.
So we're gonna show with the rams and all this. We're gonna verify who they are. Go ahead.
The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
So we know that's Alexander the Great, right? Keep going.
Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nations, but not in his power.
Right. So the 4 generals was gonna come. They was gonna rule these provinces, but not like Alexander did. Right. Keep going.
And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding, dark sentences shall stand up.
So here's the thing. You can say the Greek kingdom, but the Roman kingdom is based off the Greek kingdom, brothers and sisters. That's why they call it the Greco-Roman society. It's still based off the Greek kingdom. So one side is the Pope, one side is Antiochus, right? But we already know Antiochus from the time he set up the abomination until whenever, because there was no sign that the sanctuary was cleansed, and Judas and them got the sanctuary before that. That's where we get the Feast of Dedication from, right? So that's where he cleansed the sanctuary on the Feast of Dedication, which is what? It was on the 25th day of the 9th month. That is not 2,300 days, because when he set up the abomination, it was on the 25th day of the 9th month. So 2,300 days from that till that, this 2,300 days, you got to show me that. You have to show me that, right? Keep going.
Verse 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
Keep going.
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
Go ahead.
26. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days.
All right, so now, when we get to Daniel, the 12th chapter, as y'all can see, he saw Antiochus. When you go to the 9th chapter, he saw Titus and the Roman legion armies. But then when we get to Daniel 12, the book was sealed up on him. At the end, the book was sealed. So he saw everything. Daniel saw everything except what was at the end. And we still have an abomination of desolation at the end. What is that? So you're gonna now we're gonna have to answer for that, right? But if you put the Pope there, it would be an answer, right?
Yeah.
But it ain't no pope.
No, ain't no Pope gonna come and do none of this, right? Well, we gotta have an answer for Daniel 12
Right.
at the end, right?
Got to.
All right, so now let's continue, right? Let's go to Daniel 11 and 31. Daniel 11 and verse 31.
You want it, you got it?
And arms shall stand on this part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate.
Oh, so they shall place. It's not. They shall place the abomination that maketh desolate, right? So we're going to show that Antiochus actually did this, right? Keep going.
And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits.
And so Matthias, Judas, all of them, they did that, brothers and sisters. The problem is people think this is not going to happen again. But we're going to show it's going to happen again, right? Keep going.
And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days.
Sound like something Christ was saying about the future from his time,
sure.
right? Keep going.
Now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end.
Oh, So this is going to happen even until the time of the end, brothers and sisters, right? What end is that? Because some people think that's the end of the war with the Maccabean revolt. But they still fail, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Because it is yet for a time appointed.
So now that we're at the end, we go to verse 36. Now let's see this stuff happening at the end, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done.
Keep going.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor desire of women.
Well, we can't say that's Antiochus. He had a wife. He had a whole wife. But some people would be like, well, you know, when they was trying to send, they was trying to send the women there to seduce him for political reasons. You still got to prove that. So we're going to throw out every argument, but for time's sake, it makes more sense. Hey, the Pope, they celibate. They ain't trying to get no women.
Right.
So that makes sense, right? But remember, it said this was going to happen even until the time of the end, right?
It also sounded like, too, with Antiochus, he did regard the history of his people. Like, it's saying this person won't regard.
Right.
He had them set up false idols in Jerusalem, Zeus.
Yeah, so
Right.
now I'm glad he mentioned that. Now keep reading. Now y'all remember what he said. He had them setting up false idols of Zeus worship. Even Hercules was being worshipped in the temple of God. Brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Keep going.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God.
Oh, that's how, because he was Zeus crazy. So he regarded a God, brothers and sisters. So who is this guy? Right? Who is this guy that is doing all this? We couldn't be Antiochus because, once again, he didn't desire women. Antiochus desired women, regardless if you were able to get him for political reasons. He still desired women. He had a wife, right?
And we also see that, like you just said, with Titus. Titus gave regard to God himself and said they was working alongside God to take down the Jews.
So he thought that was a mission that he was he wasn't speaking great words against God. You see what I'm saying? But they're not saying that abomination was speaking great words against God, right? So we got to make sure we sticking to the argument, right? Keep going.
For he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. And the God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with the strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon.
And we're gonna get to that.
I was just about to say, I wonder why is Edom and Moab escaping out of his hands? Because maybe the prophets expounded on this.
They gotta be preserved, right?
Right. So now let's get to the point where in Antiochus' time, they Moab, Ammon, and Edom did escape from his hand. Here's the difference, though. That's because it wasn't his province. He was going against Ptolemy, and Ptolemy Philadelphus had already conquered this area. So, of course, he's not going to come and try to conquer this area, brothers and sisters. So, we got to think about that. He's not going to conquer that area when his rival is ruling over that area. Does that have anything to do with why they escaped at that time? Right? No, when it comes to this is being preserved because that's the land we're going to go in to flee from the abomination in the future. So that is what we're going to go. Matter of fact, read verse 42 because I want to point something out.
Verse 42. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape.
Now, what's the reason why Antiochus started attacking Jerusalem?
Because of Egypt, right?
Go ahead.
Antiochus started attacking Jerusalem because he had a quarrel with Egypt because he wanted to take over the province that Ptolemy had. And when they had their quarrel, Rome had providence within Egypt at that time too. So if they was waging war on Egypt, they would then be indirectly making war on Rome.
Right. Nobody wanted to deal with Rome at that time, right? So this really couldn't be talking about. Even though he tried to get the power of both realms, that's what he was trying to do. He was the king of the north and the king of the south. Everything north of Israel, Antiochus and the Seleucids ruled. Everything south of Israel, that's when the Ptolemies ruled, right? So Egypt was Ptolemies. So he did not get Egypt, brothers and sisters, right? And if he did, it wasn't for a long time, but they still escaped overall because Rome said if you go to war with Ptolemy and try to get Egypt, you have decided to wage war against Rome. So what did he end up doing?
Taking his frustration out on the Jews.
And that's why the Maccabean revolt had happened, brothers and sisters, right? So we want to point out these things and do this process of elimination, right? But if that's the Pope in the future, hey, Edom, Moab, and Ammon are the places where we always head for refuge.
It's refuge.
Right? And we're going to deal with that as far as the wilderness next week, brothers and sisters, right? So look out for that, right? Now, let's go see this up. Let's go to Maccabees, right? So let's go to the history on this. Stone him! Well, you know the Walls of Jericho used the Maccabees. We've been using this.
We're going to the Apocrypha.
Now Isaiah 16 right there.
Now we're going to this to establish this is our real history, unless you just want us to go and get an encyclopedia, you know what I'm saying, by the Gentiles to read them instead of reading it from our own people. But we're going to do it from here, right? And so we're going to start this at 1 Maccabees 1 and verse 1. 1 Maccabees 1 and verse 1. Whenever you get that, bro, you can go read.
And it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shedem, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead. This first over Greece.
Okay, so this is the fulfillment of Daniel 11 already coming to pass, right? Darius III was the last Persian ruler, and so he got taken out by Alexander the Great. Keep going.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
All right, so he conquered the whole known world, brothers and sisters, like we said, right? Keep going.
And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die.
So that's the reason why now his rulership is going to be given to the 4 generals, right? Keep going.
Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive.
So that's the 4 generals, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died. And his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons, after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root.
Oh, so there came out. So this does it seems like it's matching up with Daniel 8, right? Out of them. But remember, the Roman Empire is an expansion of the Greek Empire, brothers and sisters. So you can't take that out of the question, right? Keep going.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king.
Epiphanes means madman. He's the madman, right? Keep going.
Who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
All right, so now what you got to do is, remember, he did all of this in that year. So you got to follow all of the 2,300 days, even when we're coming to the 1,290 days and 1,335 days. You got to fit that all with Antiochus. Good luck. Right, keep going.
In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
And this is the same thing Christ said was going to happen in the future, brothers and sisters. So this is just a precursor of what's going to happen in the future. Skip down to verse 28 and go ahead.
The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collectors to tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them.
Oh, so that's the peaceable words that Daniel was talking about, right? So we're seeing that he is fulfilling his prophecy before Daniel 11 and 35. We want to make that point. Before Daniel 11 and 35, it is talking about Antiochus' epiphany, right? Keep going.
And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel.
All right, skip down to verse 41 and go ahead.
Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
So he made them commit idolatry. Well, he didn't make them; they wanted to do it on their own. But at this point, he's making them do it because he's threatening to he's promising death if they don't. Right? Keep going.
And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Keep going.
To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
Oh, so he changed some of the ordinances, brothers and sisters, right? Now, this is really different from what Justinian did. I would think that Justinian would have done something similar to this if you're saying he's thinking to change times and laws. Well, Antiochus really changed times and laws, brothers and sisters. But that wasn't talking about Antiochus. We already showed that was coming from the fourth beast. Antiochus was from the third beast, right? Keep going.
Verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die.
All right, so he's promising them death if they don't give this stuff up, right? Keep going.
In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. And many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places.
Oh! So is the secret places metaphorical? Or did he really drive them into secret places? If you go to the next chapter, brothers and sisters, the secret places is the wilderness. Right? Just like in Psalms 91. If you hide in he that dwelleth in the secret place shall hide in the shadow of the Almighty. An actual place, right?
Isn't that a law that Israel had to?
Yeah, it's a law. Going to that same secret place that for some strange reason, David hid in there. Moses' body is hid in there. You don't know where his body is at. It's a secret. Ain't it a secret place? It's the same. Why you think Moab, Edom, and Ammon escaped out of his hand, brothers and sisters? We're going to deal with that more next Sabbath, right? Keep going. Verse 54.
Now, the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th in the 5th year.
All right, so I'm sorry. It's the 15th day of the 9th month, right? Keep going.
In the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar.
Oh! They set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, right? Keep going.
And builded idols, altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
So do you know what the abomination of desolation they set up was? A pig.
Yep.
It was swine,
What the person.
right? It wasn't a person, it was swine. So we could see it could be a pig. If you want to say it could be the armies, or it could be a man of sin who's being worshipped
Simply a title.
as God. It is a title, brothers and sisters, and we got to look at it as a title, right?
Context is everything.
Right. Context is everything, right? Otherwise, somebody, these teachers going to be throwing you off.
Yes, sir.
All right, keep going.
55, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire.
Mm-hmm.
And whosoever was found with any the book of the testament, or of any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death.
I don't think Justinian was doing that.
No.
Justinian was not doing that, right? All right, so now let us, where we at?
Maccabees 2.
All right, let's go to Maccabees 2. So we're going to see who were the people. We're not going to get into it fully, but we're going to see who the people that started these exploits during the Greek captivity, showing us what we going to do in the future, right? Keep going. First Maccabees 2:1.
In those days arose Matthias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib,
Mm-hmm.
from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin.
So
And-
notice that these are Levites that were doing exploits,
And
right?
he had 5 sons: Joanna, called Cadiz, Simon, called Thias, Judas, who was called Maccabees,
Mhm.
Eleazar, called Avaran, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphus.
Mm-hmm.
And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, "Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of the strangers. Her temple is become as a man without glory."
Dang, the temple has become a man. So we know what he did, right? He polluted the temple, and he placed the abomination, which was spoken of in Daniel 8. He placed Daniel 11. He placed that abomination that made him desolate, which was a pig,
A pig.
right? Where we at?
Verse 9.
Skip down to verse 28. Go. Verse 16. I'm sorry. Skip down to verse 16 and go ahead.
And when many of Israel came unto them, Matthias also and his sons came together, and answered the king's officers, and said unto Matthias, on this wise: Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with his sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first, and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
So he tried to bribe him off, right? Keep going.
Then Matthias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments.
Oh, that's a person that's really changed the times and laws for real, right? Justinian didn't do that, right? Keep going.
Verse 20. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either on the right hand or the left.
So I'm just showing y'all they didn't go, and they were the people that end up doing exploits, going to war. As you see in the first Maccabees, the first chapter, folks was getting taken into captivity. All of this stuff that fulfilled Daniel 11 before verse 35, right? But this was going to happen even until the time of the end. So it's going to happen in our time, right? So let's now go, because this is a shocker to people. Antiochus actually repented from this. And people don't think this is in the Maccabees books, but let's go. See, let's go to 2 Maccabees, the 9th chapter. Yeah. You can. 2 Maccabees, the 9th chapter. Let's get there.
You want the book, Isaac?
Second Maccabees 9 and verse 11. Second Maccabees 9 and verse 11. And if, just to throw it out there, if you go to Second Maccabees 5, the last few verses, it shows that Judas and them fled into the wilderness. Same. So if you want to say, oh, it escaped out of his hand, well, they fled into that same area. So it's always been like that, brothers and sisters. It's not metaphorical, right? You can't dwell in the secret place anywhere on earth for Most High. He has an actual place for that. All right, so Second Maccabees 9 and verse 11. Whenever you get there, you can go ahead and read, my brother.
Second Maccabees, chapter 9, verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
Here, therefore, being plagued, he began to leave off his great pride,
Oh, so his pride is leaving him now, right? Keep going.
and to come to the knowledge of himself by the scourge of God, his pain increasing every moment.
To come into the knowledge of himself by the scourge of God, he started to release his pride. That's what a lot of people need to do, let go of that pride, right?
Yes,
Keep
sir.
going.
And when he himself could not abide his own smell, he said these words, "It is meet to be subject unto God."
Hey, Antiochus said that?
It's meat to be subject unto
It is
God.
meet to be subject unto God, right? I don't think somebody that's putting out blasphemies and doing all this stuff, they're not going to do all of this, right? And he placed that abomination in the temple. But let's see what he's about to do, right? Keep going.
And that a man that is mortal should not proudly think of himself if he were God.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to just add that out there too. Coincidentally, this was brought up by Brother Elijah too on that mortal. He mentioned like people you can't even smell, like humans can't even we smell ourselves. We can't even what I mean.
Right, you can't
The
see.
teacher saying that hear him go in his lower state saying that like I can't even take my own smell.
Right.
He must be funny.
Keep going.
And that a man that is mortal should not proudly think of himself if he were God.
Oh, so he's not being worshipped as God, right? He was getting people to worship Hercules and getting people to worship Zeus. That's why, as we went back to the definition in the Greek when it came to Matthew 24, is that this is a detestable thing. This is a foul thing, a detestable thing of idols and things pertaining to idolatry, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
This wicked person vowed also unto the Lord, who now no more will have mercy upon him, saying thus, that the holy city to the which he was going in haste to lay it even with the ground, and to make it a common burying place, he would set it at liberty.
So he gonna set it at liberty. This is Antiochus doing this, right? What else is he going to do? Go ahead.
And that's touching the Jews, whom he had judged not worthy so much as to be buried, but to be cast out with their children to be devoured of the fowls and the wild beasts. He'll make them all equals to the citizens of Athens.
He's making them equals to the citizen Athens. This is not the dude we are talking about in the future, right?
And the crazy thing is, the Greeks and Jews always had friction. That's why Judas and them made alliance with the Romans later on.
Exactly.
So for him to go forth and make them citizens of Athens, that speaks volumes. Because later on, Judas and them went and made a covenant with the Romans,
Right.
which indefinitely got us into the trouble that we got into with Titus.
Right. So we seeing how all of this stuff actually connects, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
And the holy temple, which before he had spoiled, he would garnish with goodly gifts, and restore all the holy vessels with many more, and out of his own revenue defray the charges belonging to the sacrifice.
So out of his own pocket, he set the charges belonging to the sacrifice back in order to where they were, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going. This is gonna be a kicker though, right? Because I want to, if some of my brothers out there, only Israel can make it. What is this right here, right? I want y'all to pay attention to this, right? Keep going. Verse 17.
Yea, and that also he will become a Jew himself.
Is that Antiochus saying that? Is that Antiochus saying? Why? Because you are a Jew inwardly, not outwardly, brothers and sisters. So he even understood that concept. Because you could go back to the Persian captivity where they made the people Jews. Right? That is a inward, not outward thing, right? Keep going.
And go through all the world that was inhabited and declare the power of God.
Do y'all see that?
He preaching too.
And he preaching. But of course, let's see what happened to him. This is a lesson within itself that, hey, even if you are repentant like, man, you gonna still get your butt whooped.
Right.
Right, keep going.
But for all this, his pains would not cease, for the just judgment of God was come upon him. Therefore, despairing of his health, he wrote unto the Jews the letter unwritten, containing a form of supplication after this manner.
Go ahead.
Antiochus, king and governor, to the good Jews and citizens, wish of much joy, health, and prosperity.
That's why you should never. That's why you should never look at somebody crazy, because he can start off changing the laws, making you do idol worship and all that, and then come into repentance, y'all.
That's right.
Right? And now look what he's doing. Right? Verse 20.
If ye and your children fare well, and your affairs be to your contentment, I give very great thanks to God, having my hope in heaven.
Ooh, look at Antiochus, boy. Look at Antiochus. The first one that placed the Abomination of Desolation. Now, is the Pope going to do that?
No.
No. Y'all, with this right here, he has a chance to get into the kingdom.
Yeah.
Over a lot of jakes.
A lot of jakes. Ooh, I know they're going to kill us for that. To my Antiochus? He going to make it into the kingdom? Hey.
With the way the brother's speaking.
Look at how he's speaking. That is a change. Just like Nebuchadnezzar, right? A man's heart was given to him, right? He came humble, right? Now, we're getting down to the real process of elimination. Let's go to Daniel 12 now. Now, we saw.
Bring it out.
Bring it out. Now we saw. Remember, Daniel saw all of this. He saw Antiochus. He saw Titus. He saw all of this. Some strange reason he couldn't see the end though. Right? Let's go look at that. Daniel 12. Daniel 12 and verse 4. Daniel 12 and verse 4, because we're going to establish that this is indeed the end. Not the end of the war, not the end of the Maccabean revolt, the end, right? Go ahead.
Somebody said stones coming soon, y'all end alive.
Yeah, it's all good. Go ahead.
Daniel 12 and what?
Daniel 12 and 4. Go ahead.
But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end.
Oh, so he just said all of this stuff, but when he get here, it's time to seal the book. Close, right? Keep going.
Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
So knowledge going to be increased during Antiochus' time.
Knowledge may be increased during Napoleon's time.
Knowledge was increased during Napoleon's time. Knowledge was increased during Justinian's time. Knowledge was increased during the Roman legion armies coming to take down Jerusalem.
It's going to continue to increase.
No, that's the end. We're at the end. That's why knowledge is increasing, brothers and sisters,
I
right?
have a question.
Go ahead.
For knowledge to increase, doesn't Israel have to be out of captivity to give the knowledge?
Well, not necessarily. They could be in captivity, but we're going to get wiser. We're going to get smart. We have the whole thing. We have Genesis to Revelation, something they did not have in Antiochus' time, something that they did not have in Titus' time.
The internet.
They didn't have the internet.
A binding of books.
This is called the age of information.
Yes, it is.
No other era was called the age of information. So just think about that as we go through this, right? Skip down to verse 8 and go ahead.
And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end.
Oh, so they're closed up and sealed until the time of the end,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Keep going.
Verse 10, Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly. And none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand.
Now notice we're at the end now, right? We are strictly at the end, right? So we're not we're not at Antiochus, we're not at Titus.
No.
We are at the end, right? Now continue to read.
And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that make it desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days.
So that doesn't make no sense if you're saying so. The abomination, if we're talking about Antiochus, it was on the 15th day of the 9th month, and what, the 146th year of the Greeks. Now you got to sit here and count from there, and then when did they get the temple back? On the 9th day of the 25th month, on the 9th month of the 25th day of the 9th month, when Judas and them started the Feast of Dedication. So from when Antiochus put this pig on the altar till the dedication was 2,300 days. You got to sit here and prove this stuff, brothers and sisters, right? But we're at the end, and it's talking about the Abomination of Desolation. So what is that? So we're finding the abomination. We ain't even went to Matthew 24, did we? No, we see a abomination of desolation at the end. So what is this? Right? So I'm going to just let y'all think about that, right? Continue though.
Verse 12. Blessed is he that waited and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days.
Okay, when did that happen? I'm just trying to do this process of elimination where we're seeing, right? Nobody say that there's abomination of desolation that they can't say it's not at the end, because Daniel 12 is dealing with the time of the end. In verse 4, he closed the book up on it, right? And so he could not understand verse 11 from the time. He didn't understand it, right? That's for us to understand, brothers and sisters, right? And so when we get to Revelations, you're now seeing this abomination, but his actions are going to reflect what he's doing in Revelations. That's what we want to see, right? Okay, we're done. Well, read verse 13.
But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the day.
Right. So he's gonna stand at his lot before the Greek. So if you're saying that's Antiochus, Daniel died before the Greek captivity. So we can't use him for this. We cannot use Titus for this because it's at the end. Daniel 9, he saw Titus. Daniel 8, he saw, and Daniel 11, he saw Antiochus. But he couldn't see that because it's for our time, brothers and sisters, right?
Yes,
that is what we want to pay attention. Now let's go to Revelations 3. We're almost done.
You got it.
Revelations, the 3rd chapter. Now, as you see, we didn't put everything on the table, so you can't say, well, they didn't bring this up, or they didn't bring this up. No, we brought up everything. Now, show me where, at the end, who is that abomination of desolation at the end?
Can't be Titus.
Can't be Titus. It can't be the Roman legion armies. It can't be Antiochus. At the end, who is that abomination of desolation that Daniel could not see? Who is that? Revelations.
Daniel saw them.
No, he didn't see that abomination.
No, he saw Titus.
He saw Titus.
Rest of
He
them,
saw
yeah.
Antiochus,
Yeah.
but he did not see that.
Right.
So that's at the end. It's sealed. We will understand that. Revelations 3 and verse 7. Revelations 3 and verse 7. Whenever you get there, you can go ahead and read it.
And to the angel of the church of Philadelphia write, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door.
All right, who can tell me where the church of Philadelphia is? That's a question that's not readily asked. Where is the church in Philadelphia?
The Church of Philadelphia is Amon, Jordan.
It's in Ammon, Jordan, the same place that escaped out of the hand of the king in Daniel 11.
Ptolemy the second named Amon Jordan after his other surname, Philadelphia.
Right, and we're going to show that
That's
next
another
week.
lesson.
That's
That's
another
another
lesson.
lesson.
We're going to show that next week when we do this
Flee.
wilderness thing. So flee. But he said, what did he say?
Flee.
I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door
That no man can shut.
that no man can shut. Why? Because it's the place of refuge.
But then we just read in Daniel that Edom and Moab was going to be.
And escape.
Yeah.
Why is he saying this to
All
the church
this- all this
in
time,
Philadelphia? Let's see what else the message is here. Keep going.
I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee.
Oh, when did that happen?
You never know.
I'm waiting on that.
We always, bro.
We're not talking about the goofy little white kids that y'all get to come worship, kiss y'all feet downtown because y'all hurt their feelings. We're not talking about them.
He talking about a whole mass of people, man. He ain't talking about 2 or 3. He talking about a whole nation of people.
This is talking about Esau coming to worship at your feet.
Right. That's a whole nation.
Willingly.
That's a whole nation.
That's a whole nation, right?
But
10, let's get into what else the message was. Go ahead.
Because thou hast kept the word of my patience.
The word of what?
Of my patience. I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation.
Telling the church of Philadelphia that? Isn't that's a coincidence?
No.
That he's telling the place where we go to refuge regularly
He gonna keep them.
that he gonna keep them from the hour of temptation, which is the Great Tribulation. Right? Go ahead.
Which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth.
Oh, just in Judea.
No, he said the whole world.
Just in Judea.
No, he said the whole
No,
world.
the whole earth. He said he's had an open door. That is the open door that we will go to, brothers and sisters, right? And if we gonna get into we gonna have fun next week. We gonna
You know you got to kill that. The whole world was the world of Israel.
Oh, yeah.
oh, that's a whole
You know
nother,
that's gonna come.
that's a
Talk
whole
about the world of Israel.
that's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic.
worms
boy.
right there, boy.
hit 11 real quick. Huh?
Verse 11. Go ahead.
Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown.
Look, hold fast to what you have as far as your teaching.
Yes, sir.
Don't be throwing off with these doctrines unless you have done your due diligence of the process of elimination and you find out that this is sound. Hey, go check with an elder.
Yes, sir.
You know, somebody that has been dealing with the Holy Spirit longer than a person that somebody that's 60 has been dealing with the Holy Spirit longer than somebody that's 30.
Yes,
Shout out
sir.
to the elders, man.
Shout out
Shout out to the elders. Yes,
Been in the
sir.
truth
Straight
longer
up.
you've been breathing.
Real talk.
The spirit led them, brother.
Boy, before your pops even thought about you, boy, they was teaching this thing.
Man.
What's that? Oh yeah.
Don't teach you to go to your elders, though.
Matter of fact, read that real quick. We gonna get into it more, but just read that first paragraph.
After I finish reading this, I need everybody in the room to go pew pew.
Yeah, go ahead.
Amen. Amon Arabic. Amon Biblical Hebrew. Rabah Amon Ancient Greek Philadelphia.
Oh, well, hold on. Let me make it. Rabah was also the land of Gad.
Oh.
So the Church of Philadelphia is actually the land of Gad,
Oh, check that out.
which was normally the place of refuge. We'll get into that next week. Go ahead.
Capital and largest city of Jordan. It is the residue of the king and the seat of government. The city is built on rolling hills at the eastern boundary of the Ajun Mountains on the small, partially perennial Wadi Amon and its tributaries.
All right, so you can just stop right there. So we just wanted to. That's where you get Philadelphia from. Ammon, Jordan. That's just a coincidence, though, right? That he's gonna hide you in this place from the hour of temptation. Just so happened to be one of the places that escaped out of the king's hand,
Praise the
And
Lord.
one of the 12
Praise
tribes
the Lord.
land.
and one of the 12 tribes' land, right?
Is that on this side of the Jordan or the other side?
The other side,
Other
east,
side.
east
Yeah,
of
east,
Jordan,
okay,
east of
got it,
Jerusalem,
got it.
right?
Yeah.
The same place where they fled,
Yeah.
in the same area, which is we're gonna just say the
Moab.
Jordan Valley, right? The same area they fled when Titus came.
Wow.
But did they do it for 1,260 days?
Ah,
You can't prove that, right? You can't prove that whatsoever, right? So let's go to Revelations 11. Now it's time to get into the 1,260 days, 42 months, time and a half. Revelations 11 and verse 1. We got 3 scriptures after this, and then we're done. Revelations 11 and verse 1.
And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months.
All right, so when we go back to talking about the holy place, right? The holy place is the city of Jerusalem, brothers. Jerusalem is the holy place, which has the Temple Mount in it. It's gonna have this phony temple that's in there as well, brothers and sisters. And what did it say they're going to try it down for how long?
40 and 2 months.
1,260 years.
Nah.
40 and 2 months.
No, I'm telling you it's 1,260 years,
Those
man.
are
That's
prophetic
prophetic years.
Nah.
Those are prophetic months.
That don't even sound right.
Right, exactly.
All right, so here you go. Let's go to this. Go ahead.
And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 score days clothed in sackcloth.
All these 2 witnesses going to live for 1,260 years.
Boy, they showed up the time that God gave us, didn't
Man, Joe, they didn't
Nah,
win
long
time,
shot.
boy.
They went into a day and a half. Didn't they? That's a day and a half. They went way past it.
Hey, stop playing. Stop.
All right, keep going. Verse 4.
These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed.
All right,
Wait, hold on. When have y'all seen anybody spit fire out their mouth when they was trying to hurt somebody?
I don't know. Somebody got halitosis, but that ain't
Man,
I ain't never heard about no fire-breathing human.
no.
You know what I'm saying?
But no, this gets worse, right? Let's keep going. Go ahead.
These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy.
Right.
Have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will.
Dang, there was a time in history where it didn't rain for 1,260 years.
Haven't seen that one yet.
I don't think
There won't be no vegetation here.
I think people that make this argument, they did not consider everything.
No.
Nah,
They
they
just didn't
couldn't.
consider everything.
Couldn't.
And I just hope if you do have those arguments in you, you're ready to change and consider it. Because that is, or you're going to have to go to the depth. I would like, hey, if I'm wrong, if we are wrong, I would like to be corrected.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what it's about. When you see that you're wrong, correct
You
yourself.
gotta want to humble yourself, man.
Humble yourself and correct yourself. But we not done.
It says to smite the earth with all plagues.
Mm.
This isn't one area.
This is the whole
Oh,
earth.
so
Being
the
full of
entire
disease.
So disease and all that got to be
Full
spent
of
for
disease.
1,260
Years.
When did this happen?
Pandemic only lasts about a year and a half,
As
maybe
often
2.
as they will. So these witnesses can do whatever they want to the entire earth when they want to.
Right.
Yep.
But no,
As often as they will.
As often as
Often as
you know what? Let's where is that?
Remind that somebody said it's gonna be for years and not
Oh.
days. The prophetic days, the years.
What are they saying are the witnesses? Are they saying this hasn't happened?
No, there is no.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about the
We
witnesses.
brought up the witnesses.
Hey, hold on.
That ain't even brought up.
They said that everything happened, but they didn't bring up the witnesses.
Nope,
Then don't they kind of throw everything out of whack?
they do. That's why I say these guys have to live for 1,260 years.
They're right there. That throws it out the window right there.
There's too many holes in that.
Way
other
too many
doctrine.
holes.
All right, verse 8.
And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified.
All right, go ahead.
And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall... Yeah, he did.
All right, go ahead. Skip. My bad. Read 7.
Verse 7, back to verse 7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them.
Oh,
When did that happen?
when did that happen?
Right.
Y'all
Yeah, where the bottomless pit at?
Right,
Hey, man,
exactly.
hold on. Where the
No,
bottomless
There's a
pit
lot
at?
of things that's going on, man.
No, so that's not. I'm saying that's not the worst part about this, right? Verse 8. Oh, no, verse 9. We read verse.
Just keep reading.
No, keep reading. Verse 8. Verse 8. Verse 8.
And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves.
Oh, so this is 350 years.
They gonna leave them bodies up? Should they decompose by then?
350.
So 350 years we gonna see
But
their
these
bodies in the street.
And that they're not gonna decompose.
But where-
And they
And who gonna live that long to see them
where
bodies?
is that?
Oh, it was in Jerusalem.
Exactly.
So in Jerusalem, these 2 witnesses
They should be
They
here
dead
right now,
bodies.
still in the street.
were in the street for 350 years.
That means they
And
should
you
be in
were
the street
able
right
to still
now.
see the bodies that didn't decompose and go into dust.
The
Right.
great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
That's still Jerusalem.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
still Jerusalem. So when did this happen?
It was the 2 witnesses.
I don't think we got 350 years left in life.
I never
Real
seen
talk.
abundance of primary
Not until we get into the other
sources.
side.
Right, so now you got to have a bunch. Hey, man, these are the two witnesses. These are their berries. These are their bodies.
We got a question.
Oh, what's the
It
question?
says, are you saying that Esau is going to build the third temple, and as the Antichrist is going to come in and stop the animal sacrifice?
Wait, say that again.
That's going to be difficult because some people believe.
Are you saying that Esau is going to build the third temple, and that the Antichrist is going to come in and stop the animal sacrifice?
We'll deal with that. We'll deal with that on another note, but that's not the argument.
Right.
That's not the argument we're dealing with today, right? And so, the argument we're dealing with today is that this person, this abomination, in the future, is this talking about the Pope? Now, if it's not talking about Antiochus, if it's not talking about Titus and the Roman legion armies, right? Because you still got to fulfill all this stuff that has been said. It can't be the abomination that's in Daniel 12, because that's at the time of the end. So we're still missing something. We're still missing somebody if that's not the Pope, right? And so, where we at? Verse 9? Oh, verse 10. Go ahead.
And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth.
All right.
So we never seen that either. It say
Nope.
they that dwell upon the earth. So
Everybody
that's
was basically throwing a big party and sending
Right.
gifts to each other because these two cats was dead.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to Revelation 13. Now we're going to see that this is got to be talking about the future beasts, right? 13:1.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
Mm-hmm.
And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw one of his hands as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wandered after the beast.
So they're saying that this deadly wound was, some people say that the deadly wound was Napoleon.
Roman
He
Empire.
came and get the deadly wound. But that's talking about Rome. The deadly wound came when the Roman Empire collapsed, right? They've been trying to revive it 10 times, but on the 10th time, it's going to be healed, right? Keep going.
And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Mm-hmm.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
So that's got to be Justinian as well. Right. So you got to make every last one of these Emperor
Fit the person.
Justinian to fit that person, right? Keep going.
And he opened his mouth and blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in the heaven.
Wasn't he giving honor to God though?
He said what?
Wasn't he giving honor to God, man, in his
He
last
was
days?
trying.
Trying.
Right, go ahead.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Keep going.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
So everybody worship Justinian.
Nope.
No.
Oh, isn't this going back to the definition of what we was talking about earlier?
Yep.
He has to be worshipped. It has to be some type
Worship
of,
as God.
as God, right?
Not like God.
As God.
As God.
Matter of fact, he got to think of himself as God.
for 42 months.
He got to show himself that he is God while he's sitting in the seat of God.
So there is no, so when it comes to the prophetic days, you have to make sure that it's giving you a start time and an ending time for you to decide if it's talking about years, it's talking about 1,000 years, or whatever it may have you. Because if you go to Hosea 6, where it says that that Israel was going to be revived after the third or the second day and raised up on the third day, that's 3 years. That's 3 years. No, it's not 3 years. Let's talk about 2,000 years. But that is another lesson, right? And so, after this, remember, after this, the Ancient of Days had to sit after this happened. That didn't happen in 1798. So we're getting rid of all of these, what possibly could be where. And then if you're not saying that it's the Pope there, then who is it? Right? Regardless if there is going to be a temple built by Esau, we're not denying that. We're just not going to deal with that right now, because that's what. But we're not denying that that is going to happen. We're not denying that he's going to come in there, because people are still going to think that that's the temple of God. People are still going to think those are the people of God, and that they are doing this to deceive the world, brothers and sisters, right? But we know that, right? And then the holy place is actually Jerusalem.
Thank you.
It's not the temple, it's Jerusalem. So when you see the abomination step in Jerusalem, acting like he's God, being worshipped as God, you get up out of there.
Right.
It's time to go.
At the end of the day, regardless if the temple or not, we know there has to be some type of temple, but regardless if there's a temple or not, brothers and sisters, when you see that man go into Jerusalem, acting like he's God, being worshipped as God, and you see them doing daily sacrifice,
Time to go.
but it's the end of daily sacrifice. I'm sorry. You get up out of there. That's what we are showing right now, right? Where we Revelation 13 and where did you read it?
Verse 7, 8, 1 through 8.
Okay, that's good. Revelation 14.
I got it.
So all of this has to happen, y'all. Verse 8. Revelation 14 and 8.
And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
That happened in 1798.
No.
Babylon.
No.
You see how this is not going to fit?
It ain't. Not
It's
at all.
consistently not going to fit, right? Keep going.
Verse 9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb.
I warn people because here's the thing. If you're so sure that there is no place of safety, you're going to have to go head on with the mark of the beast.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And people, y'all think y'all got faith
Nah.
until you're put into this situation.
Right.
I'm not ever, if I'm the person that has to stay behind, man, I'm going to be praying to God so much.
Man.
Please, Lord, please, Lord, please, Lord, don't make me. Like, I don't want to have to deal with that, right? But if I have to, then I'm relying on God to give me faith. Not my own faith, but God is going to strengthen me, right?
And this is a different type of faith that you're going to have in this time period, because even Peter lacked faith when Christ died. And that's just him seeing the Messiah die. And this is going to be a time even worse than that. So imagine how strong your faith has to be in a situation like this. A lot of us, I don't even know, me myself, ready for something like this.
Right.
Only God can make you ready.
Right, so don't be watch what you say, man. I'm ready. I'm ready, Lord.
How do you know?
Right? We got the faith in God, this, that, and third.
How
That's
do
a
you
good
know?
concept until you're in that situation.
The fire ain't turned up right now.
Right. Because Peter, like he said, Peter, man, I love you, Lord. I'm ready, such and such and such. Man,
You gonna deny me?
you're going to deny my name.
And that drama wasn't even that was some heavy drama, but that's nothing compared to what's going to happen.
You know, it's a good example.
What?
When the storm and Jesus was on the water,
Uh-huh.
he called to him.
Right.
And he was looking at him. He was cool. All of a sudden, he caught wind of it and was bloop, right into the water.
Right. So with my you say what?
No.
With my brother had just said, there was no danger. There was nothing that he had to worry about. The Lord is out there telling you, come on, and you still don't have enough faith to do it. This is talking about Peter, the rock of the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, who are we? You know what I'm saying? I'm not even trying to. If God looks at me higher than, or any of us higher than Peter, I'm not going to claim it myself. You see what I'm saying? That's the whole thing. So we still got to look at stuff like that. But my point is that if you are wrong about the place of safety, that means you're telling people that we're going to have to take this head on.
And also want to land, my bad, real quick. I want to land back off what bro saying. That we do deal with dual prophecy. We believe that this is dual prophecy, that it happened once and has to happen again. Like we see so many times. It's manifold. So it has to happen again. Dual prophecy. So we do deal with dual prophecy. We're not denying that this has to happen before, but it has to happen again.
Right, and then there's certain things that hasn't happened
Exactly.
before that we're seeing that these things are a precursor to this. But you didn't see 3.5 years with Titus, right? And you didn't see 3.5 years with Antiochus, right? And you definitely ain't seeing 1,260 years of the saints going into the wilderness, of the two witnesses preaching for thousands of years. Like, how are they living that long?
I've been built a whole civilization by that time.
Like, man, Joe, like, didn't Enoch 300 and
I was
something
just getting ready
years?
to say, Brother Elijah just
You know what I'm saying? He got his what, 369, something like that?
Methuselah 369.
Like 365. But it only took him that long. You mean the two witnesses, they were prophesying about God and they didn't get changed? There wasn't nothing that happened?
It don't take Enoch 300 years.
They went past the day
Number one.
and then some. And then they died after that, and then their bodies was in the street for 350 years.
Actually, a day and a half.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And they were able to be, intact.
Not to mention that nobody
Intact.
want to bury them and they can look at them for the next 350 years.
Yeah, like they just in Jerusalem. They just in Jerusalem in
So
the
that means their body never decayed.
right, so their
like
bodies
you
never
said.
decayed.
They never decayed, nothing. They just sitting there for 350 years. Number two, there's somebody that be able to live for 350 years to see these people.
Right, they
got
gotta keep documenting
because they
them.
passing gifts and everything because they must have knew who they was.
All right, these brothers' bodies are still in these streets.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're gonna throw a party for 350 years too. Because remember, the whole world was having them giving gifts to each other.
Yeah.
So they're doing that for 350 years too, right?
It's just not.
Come on now, man.
It's just not adding up, brothers and sisters, right? So where we
Verse 10.
Verse-
No.
verse 11. Go ahead.
We are Revelation 14, verse 11.
Uh huh.
And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no rest day nor night, nor who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receives the mark of his name.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord. From henceforth, said the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their work do follow them.
All right. So now let's go to the last place. Revelations 12. Now we didn't just went through all of this. We just asked all these questions. There has to be an answer for these questions. So now, after all of this, we're going to go to Revelations 12. We're going to start at verse 1.
Verse 1.
Yeah. Revelations 12 and verse 1.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
Talking about the nation of Israel,
Nation of
right?
Israel.
Keep going.
And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
All right, so let's be careful with this, right? Because we're going to see something when it comes to this beast. Now, we're acknowledging that this is talking about the Gentile dynasty, right? But we're now at the 4th beast, right? All right, verse 4.
And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars from heaven,
Mhm.
and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it were born.
All right, keep going.
And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had the place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
Like I said, 1,260 years from the 538 to 1798 that the woman fled into the wilderness.
That don't make sense.
That makes no sense.
Or it's metaphorical.
Right.
So it's either metaphorical that they were in all the earth, and this was happening for 1,260 years, or they actually fled into the wilderness for 1,260 years. Since it's not giving us a starting date and an ending date, I'm going to go with 3.5 years. Right. All right, skip down to verse 13. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness.
Ain't this like when they went into the land of Egypt?
Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying? He gave them, brought them on eagle's wings and brought them to himself. So he's gonna do the same thing when it comes to the place of safety at this point. He gonna do the same thing with this. Right. Right? But in this one it says into her place where she is nourished for a time, times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. Notice if you go to Ezekiel 20, it says you are going to be purged. How you going to be nourished and purged at the same time? You know what I'm saying?
Her place.
Into her
Which means
place.
that place was prepared for her.
Right. And as we're going to show next week, oh, that place is...
Yes, sir.
That place is beautiful. Like, a whole